Hello, today we are going to be talking about the different types of shading. We are all very familiar with the type of shading known as smudging. Smudging or blending is when you build from the dark and you lightly transition, changing the pressure that you are using to color, building in the different tints and shades, and smudging it so it looks like it's all been blurred together. Alright, so this is a very common technique. It's one of the first techniques for shading that we learn. We will be talking about three different techniques for shading that don't require using a pencil to get the smudged effect. So the first one we're going to talk about is stippling. Now, when you are stippling, it is highly advised that you have some paper underneath, something to muffle the sound, because what stippling is, it's taking your pencil and continuously making that lovely sound over and over again. Now notice when I'm doing it on the sketchbook, it's almost impossible to hear it. Alright? But what you're going to do is you're going to be making a bunch of little dots. Now the lighter it is, the fewer dots there will be more space in between the dots, but the darker it is, the more dots you will have, and they will be closer together. And again, make sure that if you are doing this on a table, that you have paper underneath, because that sound will annoy others, even if it doesn't bother you, and just keep that in mind. You want to be nice and quiet with it. Alright, so that is an example of stippling. You can see it going from darker to lighter, just like with the smudging. And I'll make this easier to read. It went darker to lighter. Now, you can do this with any kind of pen, pencil, marker. This end of my pen is a thicker tip, so it's going to fill in the darker space quicker. And I have to be more careful when I get to the lighter areas that I don't put too many dots or leave it down too long to make the larger dots. That way you still get that nice transition of dark to light. Alright, our next technique that we're going to look at is hatching. Hatching is when you use lines. And as you get closer to that lighter area, those lines start to space out, fade out. It is easier to do a hatch with a thinner tip than a brush tip. So I'll give an example. Going straight up and down as I get closer and closer to where my white area is going to be. You can even do this going this way. It is going to have more lines over here, and the lines are going to start thinning out and being lighter over here. So they don't have to be continuous lines with a hatch. Alright, there's also something called a crosshatch. Now a crosshatch is good for when you are trying to add multiple layers of shadow, show some more depth and range in your picture. So basically what it is I'm taking another set of hatch going across my first one. So it might be that this area of the room is in shadow, but maybe there was a box right here that's also in shadow. So it's just an extra way of indicating that there's more to this shadow than that first layer. Alright, so that's a cross hatch. And again, it would get lighter the further out it got. Or if you just wanted to cross hatch in one area, that is acceptable too. And our last one is called scribbling. Very rarely will you hear an art teacher say, alright, it's time to scribble. But for this technique, that is exactly what you're going to do. You're just going to scribble in an area, and as you scribble outwards, the scribble gets further and further apart, less condensed, and again, the closer to the darkest part, it's going to be a tighter scribble. Alright, so these are the different techniques that we have for shading. Stippling, hatching, and scribbling, those are going to be excellent choices for shading as we move forward with our lessons, especially when considering using pen or marker for our coloring medium. Make sure we get lots of practice. A good way to practice going from dark to light is to draw a rectangle and label one side the dark side, one side the light side. And then you're just going to practice transitioning from dark to light. Remember, it's going to be darker over here where there's less light. We're going to cross hatch it. Alright, and that's just to practice the technique so you can learn to get the full value range from dark to light.